Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. 12-year-old perishes in fire in Wellington town. A 12-year-old girl died in a fire at her home on Gloucester Street, Wellington town in East Kingston on Thursday. She had been identified as Leah Hugh, a student of Kingston High School. It is unclear what started the fire, which reportedly began shortly after 10 a.m. Emotional father, principal reacted death of 12-year-old.
My name is Tony. My little daughter just burned up in the house in the sun. But I not even know what to say. I don't have my house and here her mother call me and tell me, say, little girl, burn up in the house and I have to come. And I come right a while ago, I come. And she that in the house and I not leave till she come out of the house. You understand? I love me pity them. You understand? I save my them I get. I'm gonna left them out an inch, work hard and I sell fish, you mind them. Virgin. And the end of the day, this me see with my little daughter. Oh God, oh God.
How old is she?
She had 11 and go to 12. My little daughter. She go to school up at Orange, up at King Street, up at St. Thomas.
Leah was one of those promising students. Came to us in September. She's in grade 7. Very mannerable. Would not pass her without saying good morning or good afternoon. Is one of those students who would have come in with some challenges but would have excelled academically to even be placed Student of the Month. Yesterday she would have collected her certificate as Student of the Month, and today we are very saddened to hear that she would have perished like this, wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to rise to her potential.
We hear that she wasn't at school today. What was the reason?
We are doing our parent consultation, so we have 3 days of parent consultation. Yesterday it was for grade 7 and 9. Today we are doing grade 8 and 10. So unfortunately she would not have been at school today because we are meeting with the other parents of the other grade.
Suspects being held as security forces heighten operations in Manchester. Police and military teams have been deployed to Manchester to combat a surge in crime. There, even as sources say, multiple suspects have been apprehended in targeted operations by the security forces. Reporters understand that among those arrested are suspects and persons of interest in armed robbery, break-ins, among other crimes. We have a man in custody now from St. Elizabeth, who we captured last week Thursday in New Green. We pick up another 5 men on Thursday at the border of Scott's Part in a big operation. We are targeting all parts of the parish in search of all persons of interest and suspects, said a reliable police source. We are ramping up operation right across Manchester Division. We have to pull out all the stops. Manchester can't continue with the crime like this. We have people involved in murders and shootings. We are looking for them, added the source. On Monday, head of the Manchester Police Superintendent Shane McCullough told journalists that known criminals are being pursued with the help of external forces. Education Minister describes conduct of teacher captured on video issuing death threats to students as unprofessional and unexcusable. Education Minister Favor Williams has described the conduct of a teacher who was captured on video issuing death threats to students as unprofessional and inexcusable. The teacher, who is reportedly employed at the Newell High School in St. Elizabeth, is seen in the video verbally assaulting, chasing and issuing death threats to a student. In condemning the action, Minister Williams says such behavior lowered the professionalism of the teaching sector. Noting the point that the teacher has behaved in a similar manner previously, Mr. Williams says this inexcusable act cannot be defended. Meantime, the minister says in accordance with the 48-hour required by current regulations for the notice to member, the chairman of the school board has called an emergency meeting for today to address the conduct of the teacher. Mrs. Williams also notes that there will be counseling session for students. The teacher will also receive counseling. The video has been referred to the Office of the Children Advocate and the Commissioner of Police for investigation.
I was aghast to see a teacher standing up and speaking with a student, not just the one student, but all the other students were within earshot of what he was saying and his conduct, his threats. And then to be chasing after the student, that is just unacceptable. We have to, when these things happen, to speak out against them. We have to take the actions necessary. We cannot allow this to be normalized in our schools at all. These are some of the things we've been talking about what it is that our children are learning from us as adults. They're learning about violence, that they use violence to settle disputes. So what does that mean for the future of Jamaica? We have to say right now, today, no more of this. We will not tolerate this kind of behavior in our classrooms from our teachers, who are the adults in the room, who are the ones that should be setting the example. That is not to say that the chairman is not aware of what's going on. He's very much aware of what has taken place. He's in communication with the principal. He's in communication with the regional arm, which would be the regional director, the education officers, and so forth. Because in this period, as you can imagine, they have to gather the information, write a formal report on it, an incident report, so that it is logged at the school, it is sent to the region and to the ministry. So that is what is happening now, and the formal meeting will take place tomorrow. Schools should be safe places for our students to come, to learn, to interact with each other. And so, yes, we do have to provide some psychosocial support for our students so that we get them back to that place where they understand that this behavior should not be tolerated. This is not what they wake up to come to school for, to endure in a classroom. And this will help them. Those sessions will help them to ask questions and to express what it is that they're thinking, and hopefully to get them back to a place where they understand this education minister and the leadership of the education sector, the government as a whole. This is not what we stand for in our classrooms.
Double murder rocks Tucker St. James. 2 men were cut down in the hail of bullets during an attack by gunmen at a pub in Tucker St. James Thursday afternoon. Another person, said to be a teen, was injured in the incident. The dead men have been identified as 29-year-old David Elliott, otherwise Corporal, and Marlon Medley, 30, both from 13th Street in Tucker. The injured male is a teen. The police reportedly found almost 30 spent shells while processing the murdered teen. These include 29 mm and 8 40-round casings. No motive has been established for the attack as yet. Police said around 2:15 p.m., Elliott and Medley and the teen were patrons at the pub when they were pounced upon by gunmen who opened fire at them. When the shooting subsided, Elliott and Medley were seen suffering from what appeared to be gunshot wounds to their upper bodies, while the teen was seen with a gunshot wound to his leg. All injured persons were transported by residents to hospital, where Medley and Elliott were pronounced dead and the teen admitted in serious but stable condition. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark pledges to cut asset tax as soon as possible. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark has pledged to fulfill his promise to cut the excess tax as soon as possible. Last year, the minister indicated that it was delaying the implementation of a reduced asset tax in light of a financial necessity due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking at the Mayberry Forum last evening, Dr. Clark expressed appreciation to the financial industry for offering to hold off on the reduction so that the government had the fiscal resources to respond to the pandemic. He said he is not in favor of the asset tax as it is bad for business.
The asset tax was, when it was announced initially several years ago by Minister Phillips, former Minister Phillips, it was set to be temporary. And you will recall that in the budget of 2021, which was delivered several hours before the first COVID case, I actually announced the asset tax will be reduced by 50%. Yep. And then found myself without $75 billion of revenue as COVID brought the economy, to its knees. And the financial services industry came forward quite admirably and suggested that I delay implementation of it. And I will never forget that. that. I don't believe the asset tax to be a good tax. I think it's counterproductive. At least give me some credit. We abolished the asset tax for non-financial businesses. That was one of the first things I did when I came in as Minister of Finance. I am philosophically opposed to the asset tax. It's a matter of just timing. It's a matter of when we can afford to do it. And as soon as we can afford to do it, we'll do it. Because what it does is that it's counterproductive to economic activity. You're taxing people for having more assets. What you only tax people on is income or some other basis on profits, not on the assets on their balance sheet. What people do to avoid that tax, right, is deleterious to the economy. They shift assets out of Jamaica, they shift assets off and so forth. And that doesn't do us any good. The challenge is just the amount that we collect each year, which is not a small amount. So we'd have to find a way to absorb that reduction. And as soon as I'm able to do it, we will do it.
Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification